Well, hey garden friends, it's Destry. Welcome back to my Oregon yard. Today's video is sort of a compilation of me processing and dealing with my dahlia patch, pulling everything out and tidying it up for the season. I hope you enjoy it. Well guys, it's time to get real about my dahlia patch situation. My patch has turned into a bunch of mush. They're not totally dead, but you know, it's time. Now thankfully I've tagged most of these with at least the size and color, and I have some different ways I'm going to be overwintering and dealing with this. Now my first thing I was thinking about doing was leaving some of them in the ground, mulching over them well and seeing if they survive. But what I'm going to do with that process is be a little bit more selective, meaning I want to think about the varieties I have and where I have them, and you know, maybe move some things around before I overwinter them. So thankfully I have them labeled, but now I'm really starting to think about placement for next year. So do I want to have these varieties in these spots? If I'm going to keep them in the spots, then yes, I'm going to try to overwinter them in place in my Vego garden beds. But some of the varieties are, you know, either in a bad place, or honestly, some of the tubers are pretty small. So here's a good example of a tuber. It's sitting up way too high to try to overwinter. It's almost pushing out of the ground, and it's just one small tuber. So what I think I'm going to do for some of these is clip the stalks, obviously, and then just overwinter them in some pots in my greenhouse. Now, as long as they don't freeze, they can survive in soil. So thinking of it more like, you know, a potted plant or just an indoor plant for the winter months. And then I can move different ones around. Now, if the tubers are really big, I can, you know, again, just winter them in place, or at least that's what I'm going to try to do. And then some of them I actually pulled out and eliminated from my collection altogether. There were some that I just didn't like, and I had multiples of them. So I've already done that process. But again, here's one where I don't think I want to keep this variety here next year. So I can pull it out, and I could also, you know, cure the tuber, let it, well, I'd rinse it off, hose it off, then let it dry. This is the process I did last year with some. And then you just let them kind of cure and get real dry, and then you wrap them. I wrapped them in cling wrap and kind of wrapped each one individually, and then stored them in paper sacks. And then I just checked on them, you know, every couple months. And that's how I moved my entire dahlia patch to this area this year. So again, I'm looking at some of the placement of these and realizing that I would maybe like to have different ones in different locations in my yard. So I'm just doing that sort of assessment process, and it really just takes time, right? It's going to take me probably a day. So what I'm doing now, kind of my new philosophy for gardening right now, you guys, is just little bits at a time. So like 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 20 minutes there, and you know, putting in that time and finding little pockets of time is working a lot better for me. So as I go through my collection of dahlias, again, I'm going to make some decisions and make some choices. Now I also risk losing them if I overwinter them, so that's another thing to consider. Now, another reason you might consider moving things is, you know, also the size and growth habit of the dahlia. You know, what color schemes you might want to have where. I'm not going to probably dial it in that much with the color schemes, but you know, I might move some things around, and I want to make room in my garden for new Dahlia tubers. So I'm also thinking about that, especially with ones that I have multiples of. It's kind of like, you know, could I potentially, you know, lose this particular one, like maybe divide the tuber and share it or something like this. This is an example of one I have a few plants of now. And again, I love it, but it's also like, I want to make space, right? You've got to make space for new things in your life and new tubers in your life. I believe in ones like this for the bumblebees to sleep on. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking about with these dahlias. Again, trying to fit in these small pockets of time, but also being thoughtful about my choices and how I choose to store them, what methods I'm going to try. And it's fun to try different things, and it's fun to make changes in the garden. And I got in this bed and dug out some of the tubers the other night. I cut them all back. I actually ended up removing a few of them, but you can see I've got 4 more cut back there. So I'm kind of just doing that as I get a chance. I'm starting with these ones that are just, you know, kind of hanging on the ground, the low-hanging fruit here. And then as I get in there, I'm realizing there's more and more that are just kind of done. So here's another one I've groomed up at this point. You can see this one is actually still actively blooming, so I'm leaving it for now. Again, the yellows seem to be still blooming, so that's really nice. This red one is still blooming. So again, we haven't had a killing frost yet, but I have been slowly starting to just, you know, tidy them up and do them a little bit at a time. That's kind of my philosophy right now. So here in this bed, you can see I've got them all cut back, all the dahlias. And I am going to be overwintering some of these in the bed. Now I'm going to work on getting more leaves raked up, and we're going to be putting all the leaf mulch here in these beds to try to insulate them a bit. All right, guys, well, I thought I'd show you what I'm doing with my dahlias right now. You can see I've got one here that was in a pot, and it's got a really large tuber system. Now I could try to get in here and divide some of this, but I'm really not going to, because I've got a lot of room here in this raised garden bed. This is a Vego raised garden bed. You can also see this one here. There was another one behind it, another Dahlia tuber, but I pulled it out. So I think what I'd like to do is change the placement of this tuber as well. Now I'm going to be trying to overwinter these in the ground. I'm going to be covering them with some leaf mulch and things like that. And then next to them, I have some of my heirloom mums. So these will not be here. Next spring, I have room here for different dahlias. So I'm leaving myself some room for that. But I'm gonna go ahead and rearrange this tuber. I'm gonna dig it up, move it back, and then settle this one in. This is a large red. And in fact, I actually found the name. It's called a painted maiden. And then this is a purple and white one. And I looked up the name of that one too. I am trying to identify and correctly label my tubers as I'm going, or at least kind of know what I have. Let me show you another spot where I'm going to do some moving around of some of the tubers. So in this bed right here, I feel like it's a little too crowded. So this one here is the same variety of dahlia, but there's not enough room here. So I think I'm just going to take my shovel and take probably this one out, or maybe this one actually, to give this one more room. So I do think the placement of these crowns is pretty good. You can see here, this one kind of splayed. So again, that's something where there's probably 2, you know, viable kind of plants in there that I could separate. But I'm probably not going to worry about it because it's seated well kind of in the middle of the bed. So is this one and this one. So I'm thinking about, you know, lining these beds with something that will bloom, you know, in the spring, maybe just a little annual. And then really the dahlias start to come out even, you know, even now I have some blooming. So you can see I've got some powdery mildew, but I still have some blooms. And I am trying to leave them for the pollinators as much as I can here, even though they're all sort of drooped over, although I have been cutting on them still. But a lot of them I'm starting to get cleaned up and cleared out, like this one. In fact, there's all these trellises in here which didn't help at all. So I'm pulling all this kind of stuff out, but I am leaving the ones that are blooming right now. And I'm just, you know, looking at the placement and how I've got these planted and making those moves now instead of in the spring. So you can see the natural, you know, leaves that are falling on this bed in particular. So as we rake up, I'll just be piling the leaves on top. Providing that insulation that I think these tubers might need, especially in this particular area. It's pretty shady. So, but you can see, I mean, that's kind of what happens under, you know, some of the trees that I have here. So, and I can't believe how big these ones have gotten this season, you guys. These arborvitae, I put them in these tall pots, and they are just really stately all of a sudden. They've really come into their own over the summer, and I'm really going to be enjoying that for winter interest. I'm really glad I have that set of 3, that repetition in between the Vego garden beds. I think I'm really maximizing my space here. All right, well, I went ahead and dug up the purple and white tuber, and you can see it's totally looking good and healthy. I'm not gonna divide this right now. I'm just gonna plant these up. So I'm gonna do the red one, and then the purple one's gonna go where it was, but I've moved it quite a bit over and back. It's just a better placement for the tuber and the health of the long-term health of it. So that's what I'm going to be putting in today. It's starting to get chilly out here and a little breezy. right, so here's a quick after shot. Now, I do have some room in between. There's a really small variety of dahlia. I'm not sure if it'll survive. It's a tiny one. It's kind of back there in between. And then I have these two here. So I think it's much better placement for those. And again, I could do some sort of annuals in between or something. I don't know. I thought about popping some bulbs in there because then when they're done, I could just literally pop them out. So I might do that. I might end up planting like just a couple like tulips in between each one, but I might just not. I might just leave them. And then ones like this. So I'm really going to be focusing on my ground cover or my, insulation. And again, I might cut these down more, and they might sort of just lift off at some point. They kind of just, So yeah, just slowly doing things on the dahlia patch. Like I said, getting trellising out of there, just waiting for these final blooms and the final frost to take everybody, and then I'll have them all cleaned up. So what started out a couple weeks ago of me slowly taking these dahlias out has turned into saying goodbye for the season. So now here we are mid-November, and I got myself out there and cleaned up all the rest of these dahlias and cut them all back. It's always hard to say goodbye to the gardening season for me, and I'm excited though to try overwintering some of these Dahlia tubers in place. So again, my plan is to go ahead and mulch over these beds. Some of the tubers I pulled, and I will be overwintering them in pots in the greenhouse. And of course, I will make room for new varieties for next year. So I'm already shopping. I've already got my list going of more dahlias I want to add to the garden next year. So thanks so much for watching this video and checking out my process as I slowly say goodbye to my dahlias. I hope that you guys are enjoying your fall gardens, and if you need me, I'll be doing some gardening. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.